Since May 2024, the battle for Vovchansk in Ukraine's Kharkiv region has unfolded in a way few initially expected. Once a lively border city, Vovchansk has been reduced to ruins under relentless artillery pressure and repeated strikes. Buildings that once defined daily life now stand as hollow shells. Streets that were once active are quiet. And yet, despite all this, control of the city remains fiercely contested. At first glance, it might seem inevitable that such destruction would be followed by a decisive advance. But that hasn't happened. Russian forces have pushed toward Vovchansk for months, yet a full takeover remains out of reach. So what is holding things in place? The answer lies not just in resistance, but in how the battlefield itself has changed. Reports, including those from Euromaidan Press, suggest that since the summer of 2025, large-scale mechanized advances in this sector have effectively come to a halt. Armored vehicles, once central to offensive operations, are no longer playing a decisive role here. Instead, the landscape around Vovchansk is marked by abandoned equipment, the remnants of earlier engagements where vehicles were lost under intense defensive pressure. This shift has forced a change in approach. Rather than relying on tanks and armored columns, Russian operations in the area now revolve around smaller infantry units. These groups move on foot, often in limited numbers, attempting to navigate the complex terrain and find openings in defensive lines. The concept is straightforward. Remain less visible, move carefully, and exploit any gap that appears. It's a strategy that began gaining traction around mid-2025. Traditional advances, large, direct, and heavily supported, had proven costly, with significant equipment destroyed. In response, smaller, more flexible units were introduced, aiming to achieve progress through maneuver rather than force. These teams are often guided by aerial reconnaissance, moving gradually and attempting to avoid detection. Their objective is not always immediate control, but positioning, slipping through defensive layers, establishing a presence, and holding it long enough for reinforcements to arrive. On paper, it's a calculated adaptation. In practice, it's far more complicated. Ukrainian surveillance capabilities, particularly the extensive use of drones, have reshaped the battlefield. Areas between opposing lines are closely monitored, making concealment difficult. Many infiltration attempts are detected either during movement or shortly after arrival. When that happens, Ukrainian units respond quickly, redirecting resources to contain and neutralize the threat. Even so, these repeated engagements serve a broader purpose. Each attempt, whether successful or not, forces defensive responses. It requires attention, coordination, and resources. From a strategic perspective, even limited advances, or simply sustained pressure, can influence the wider battlefield. And Vovchansk is not just a local objective. Geographically, it sits near the border, far from the primary focus of operations in Donetsk, where control of the Donbas region remains a key strategic aim. This raises an important point. Activity around Vovchansk may also function as a way to stretch Ukrainian defenses, drawing personnel and attention away from other critical areas. There are additional considerations as well. Events in August 2024, when Ukrainian forces launched operations into Russia's Kursk region, highlighted vulnerabilities along border areas. That episode required significant resources to stabilize, with reported losses reaching 62,400 personnel. It left a lasting impression on strategic planning. In that context, Vovchansk takes on added importance. Its location makes it a potential staging ground, not only for advances, but also for preventing future incursions. By maintaining pressure and creating a heavily contested zone, the aim may be to limit the possibility of similar developments elsewhere, particularly in nearby regions like Belgorod. This perspective also helps explain the scale of destruction. By mid-2025, reports indicated that approximately 90% of Vovchansk had been damaged or destroyed, with less than 10% of housing still intact. The city, in many ways, exists more as a position on the map than as a functioning settlement. Meanwhile, the condition of the forces involved continues to shape the course of events. The absence of armored support has had a profound impact. Drones, often described as a defining feature of modern warfare, have made vehicles increasingly vulnerable. This has contributed to significant equipment losses over time. Estimates vary, but figures suggest that Russia has lost around 4,300 tanks and 8,700 armored infantry vehicles, while Ukrainian estimates place those numbers higher, at over 11,600 tanks and nearly 24,000 armored vehicles. Regardless of the exact totals, the trend is clear. Equipment losses have been substantial. This reality has reinforced the reliance on infantry-based operations in places like Vovchansk. However, without the support of mechanized units, these advances face serious limitations. Larger formations would be easier to detect and engage, while smaller groups, though harder to spot, struggle to hold ground under sustained pressure. The numbers from the Vovchansk sector reflect the intensity of this situation. Since May 2024, reported losses exceed 15,000 personnel in this area alone, an average of roughly 25 per day, with some periods seeing even higher figures. Seasonal conditions have also played a role. During winter, frozen terrain allowed for easier movement, temporarily aiding advances. But as temperatures rise and rivers thaw, those pathways disappear, adding another layer of difficulty. Despite these challenges, operations continue. There have also been adjustments in direction. Rather than focusing solely on the city itself, some efforts now aim to bypass Vovchansk, attempting to move deeper into the Kharkiv region. Yet these maneuvers encounter similar obstacles: limited protection, constant surveillance, and the persistent threat of drone-guided strikes. Through all of this, one thing remains consistent: the resilience of defensive positions. Even in a city largely reduced to rubble, control is not easily transferred. Vovchansk stands as a stark example of how modern conflict is evolving. Technology, terrain, and strategy are intersecting in ways that reshape expectations. If you found this breakdown insightful and want to stay ahead with clear, engaging updates on developments like this, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and follow along, because the next chapter in this evolving story may arrive sooner than expected.